this is the thing. You've got the two choices. One is to be proactive, to inform your children about the dangers that are out there, which you do about all these other things, right? Don't touch the hot stove. Don't run into the street. You know, what about running into this, the internet superhighway? What about the problems there? Every child, deserves this information. We just can't let them go out into this world without the proper training. So yes, kids are curious, but that is all the more reason why we need to educate them and give them a plan and empower them to reject pornography.
Hey moms, welcome back to the Gather Moms podcast. And we are in our season of gathering the experts. And boy, do we have an expert with us today. Her name is Kristen Jenson, and I am holding two of her books right here that I can't wait to show you. But I want to say welcome, Kristen, to the podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Kate and Rebecca. I love to talk to moms, and so it's great to be with you.
So you are the author of a book that for Rebecca and I, it's been a staple in our home. Your sweet assistant sent us copies, but we already had them.
That's right. Yes.
And so you guys, Kristen is the author of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see it. It's an iconic cover. This has been such a blessing to us. Will you tell us a little bit about what made you write this book? How long ago? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I had moved into a new town with my husband and just getting to know some people, and met a woman who called me up and, just wanted to talk. And she unfolded this really tragic story of how her oldest son, who was 17 at the time, had been molesting his younger brothers and sisters. And they had a large family, went to church every Sunday, she was so dedicated to trying to keep her kids safe from sexual abuse, because she had suffered that had happened to her. And she was just trying to be so careful. But they had the internet in their home, and their young son had gotten into pornography. And we know now that it is really a huge driver of child-on-child harmful sexual behavior, sibling sexual trauma. So anyway, that's what happened in this family. And she told me this horrific story. We talked till like 1:30 in the morning, and I got up the next morning, and I just had this thought keep coming to my mind about, how do you warn the young children? Because children are young. They're seeing this material at a young age. How are we going to warn them? And I started looking into it, doing a little research, watching some YouTube videos, reading. And I decided, and I looked for a book for her. I wanted to buy a book so that she could read it to her children. Really, what I was trying to find is Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, but it wasn't there. So then I had this crazy thought, well, maybe I should just write it.
Wow.
And that is a crazy thought, but I went ahead and did it. And it took 3 years to get it written and published. And that was in 2014.
Wow.
So now we're 11 years later.
Yes.
We've gotten a second edition now, updated. And
And junior.
And then we have a junior that came out in 2017. And so, they're really based on principles. They're based on science that really isn't going to be changing a whole lot, to be honest, other than just to get more studies that show it's true. But it's all backed up with science. In both books, you can get a QR code that will lead you, especially in the one for older kids, to the science behind it. So we have it all documented. It teaches children 3 things: an age-appropriate definition of what pornography is, or bad pictures, right? Why it's harmful. So a warning, and what to do when they see it. So a plan. So a definition, a warning, and a plan. And both books do those for their age categories.
So it's fascinating to me that you wrote it in 2014 because it does hold up. And with all of the changes in technology, you would think it would become obsolete. But, because of the blessing of the way you wrote it, it holds, which I just think that's kind of incredible.
I do too.
Yeah. It's, well, the first edition, we did take it, we did kind of strengthen, because in the first edition, we were getting kind of glimpses of scientific studies that were basically showing, but then by the second edition, we totally had those. And so, for example, that addiction, even porn addiction, shrinks the brain. It shrinks this prefrontal cortex. Well, we had a glimpse of it in 2014, but by 2018, when we did the second edition, we actually had the science in hand. So, in the studies. So, like I said, everything holds up. And we put in, like, in the chapters, each chapter has the discussion questions. So and we added some more, updated the, parent tips, whatever. But pretty much, so the way you get addicted to screens is the same in 2025 as it was, in 2010. And the way you get addicted to pornography is also really the same. It's our brains have not changed, in those 15 years. It's the same pattern, and the same danger.
Well, but it's interesting that we are navigating this as moms in 2025 because, we have moms at different ages listening to this. There are moms who, are more closer to Rebecca and I's age who, like, when we were in high school and stuff, like, a boy might have a magazine, or somebody might, there might be a magazine somewhere or something, to now, they have 24-hour access to pornography. And for so many moms, we feel overwhelmed by their access. And it feels like, I feel like there's kind of two extremes in our responses. Either there's a mom who shuts everything down, there's no screens, we don't talk about it, it's highly restricted.
Yes.
Or controlling, or it's like, I don't even know where to start.
And so you're almost paralyzed and don't do anything.
Yeah. And like, kind of, for better or for worse, like, hope for the best, that they just don't come across it. Yeah. Yes. So tell us, what do we know about the average age of kids getting exposed to pornography, and how are they getting exposed?
Yeah. Well, I will just tell you that if you ask any expert out there that actually talks to people and knows what kids are doing these days, they will tell you that the research, the studies are lagging way behind what's actually happening.
Okay.
So, given that, like, we have research that says, well, 11 is the average age, 12 is the average age, but that's all done with older people trying to remember, right, when they first saw it. I would say it's much younger than that, but I cannot put a pin in it. Like, I don't know the exact average age. I think that if your kid has access, pretty uncontrolled, access to a screen or a device that is, got internet capability, odds are they may have seen things that they're just not telling you about.
Sure.
Right. So there are studies that show that parents underestimate by quite a large amount, underestimate their children's, not only their negative experiences on the internet, but their exposure to pornography. So by like 100%. So it's something that we need to definitely be vigilant about. So you asked about the average age, and you asked about how kids are exposed. I think children are exposed to pornography often by their peers. Their peers that already have these, devices. I have many stories where that has happened. They also get into sexualized material very easily through games. For example, if they're on Roblox, I mean, they
No,
can
what?
easily, there's so
Yeah,
many predators
Right.
yeah.
there.
What's coming out
And
about Roblox has been startling.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's always
And it's
been,
actually,
yeah.
it's been coming out for years. Every
Yeah.
once in a while, there's this fresh resurgence of like panic. But I don't know. I would say back in 2021, I spoke to the Wall Street Journal about this, about Roblox and the problems with Roblox. So, in any case,
Right.
they're getting exposed mostly from their peers and from screens and from games, I would say, is the typical way. Another way they get exposed, though, that's really dangerous is through predators, adult predators, people that want to uh, groom them for sexual abuse. And they use pornography because it desensitizes the child. It shows the child what to do. It's like, hey, these people are having fun. And I have a story of a 6-year-old who was at a friend's house. Well, they were there for dinner, and the child was allowed to go down to the basement to grab a toy. And when he was down there, a man who they later found out was renting the basement came up and showed him gay porn on the phone and said, "This is really fun, blah, blah," trying to start to groom this kid. And because his mother had read him good pictures, bad pictures, he was just like, "That's pornography." Like he knew
Wow.
that's a bad picture. I'm not supposed to, nobody's supposed to be showing this to me.
Yeah.
And he knew exactly what to do. He had the plan. So he knew exactly what to do, and he got himself out of there. And I think kids are a lot safer from all forms of sexual abuse and sexual exploitation if you take the time to begin talking to them about pornography from an early age.
Well, and I think what we're talking about with this being almost like the same tactics that have been used for years. Because when I was young and went to a friend's house, I had a peer show me a Playboy magazine that her dad had
Really?
in the closet.
Whoa.
And I mean, my parents never talked about that because it wasn't a part of our household, so we didn't think there was a need to. But now we're in 2025 where again, you've got a peer not showing a magazine, but showing a phone or showing a game. And if you come from a household where that's just not part of your household, you don't think to prepare your children for it. But
Yeah.
now, because we have our kids outside of our homes so much more than they're sometimes even inside of our homes, every mom, every single mom has to know how to help her child know good pictures, bad pictures before she sends them out to the
Mhm.
world.
Yeah, that's good.
And before they get on any kind of a screen,
Yeah, no, that's
you
good.
know?
So, but I wonder if one of the questions for moms is, hey, I don't want to bring it up because if I talk about it, it's going to make them curious. What would you say to that?
I would say I get it. I totally understand. And there is a propensity for moms to always want, like, we have to be responsible for everything. We're going to blame ourselves for anything that happens to our kids. Believe me, I'm still feeling some of this,
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is the thing. You've got the two choices. One is to be proactive, to inform your children about the dangers that are out there, which you do about all these other things, right? Don't touch the hot stove. Don't run into the street. Um, you know, what about running into this, the internet superhighway? What about the problems there? Every child, deserves this information. Um, we just can't let them go out into this world without the proper training. So, yes, kids are curious, but that is all the more reason why we need to educate them and give them a plan and empower them to reject pornography when they see it, because they're going to see it. It's not a if, it's a when. And I hate that, but it's just reality in our current day. So we can either parent, kind of in la la land in this idealized, like maybe how we grew up, but, or we can parent our kids based on the reality of what they're going to actually experience and actually come up against and prepare them So again, there's two ways. You can do the cross your fingers and I hope my kid doesn't see porn until after I finally get around to mentioning it. The proactive approach, which is what we do with everything else,
Right.
let's just do this with pornography. It is a reality. But once you get started, it's not that hard. It really, it gets easier and easier and easier.
Well, and that's one of the things at Gather Moms we talk to our moms a lot about is this idea of drip, 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 drip. We're constantly dripping truth over our kids, weaving God into every conversation. I think about a ministry that uses this when they're talking to their kids about sex, that you're just constantly dripping these ideas of how babies are made and what God does. How would you encourage a mom to drip, drip, drip this truth of good pictures, bad pictures, pornography over their kids, maybe in just a daily conversation before they even start with the book? Because I think we're talking about little kids here. How can I prepare even young kids to know what's coming in a way that's good for them, practical for them?
Yeah, I think first you start with defending minds. We say we have like this three iterative steps. One, get the facts yourself. Two, arm the children. And three, continue the conversations. And you just keep doing those, rinse and repeat. And I would also add that the junior book that we have is for kids 3 to 7. And I've heard of, we started at age 2.
Wow.
So that kind of a conversation can really make it easy and comfortable. And also kids just love looking at books, and it's not only your voice, but it's the book's voice. So it's like more credibility. But on a daily basis, I think part of it is talking about what they see and what they bring into their being intentional about what they look at. We talk about screen time.
Yeah.
So, what they let into their mind, what they let into their heart, right? So the music they listen to and I think as we begin to say we want to guard, our mind, we want to guard our heart. And we want to be choosy, right? We want to be particular. And I think another way that moms can do this is to set the example, right? To narrate almost like, oh, you know what? That show, mommy isn't going to watch that show.
Yeah.
Because it has bad pictures in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to watch that show. And just kind of show your own example of how you are guarding your own heart and guarding your own mind. Because not just for kids, honestly, we all need to do this. And, I do this myself. And so I think that's part of the daily walk and talk of helping your children reject pornography and just having those conversations. And also, if you see something, if you're in the grocery store and you're going through the aisle and you see a scandalous picture on a magazine, you can just use that as a jumping off conversation instead of trying to like, oh my gosh, to say, it's a bad picture, isn't it? That woman, really should have more clothes on. And it's sad that she doesn't consider, and you don't want to be shaming, but like just these conversations, like you said, drip, 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 not a fire hose.
Yeah.
But we talk about seeds, right? You plant seeds and you drip, drip, drip. If you get a hose and spray them, they're not going to do well. So I love that you have this drip, drip, drip method because it is truly what makes the most impact over time.
Well, I think that's so good. And, I'm thinking as you're talking about talking to our kids about how precious their bodies are that God made and that God calls our bodies a temple and what that means and their high value and how things that are high value we protect and we, take special care of and things like that. And so, I do think we have those opportunities. And I love how you talked about I do think it makes a huge difference when moms go first, or the parents go first and say, hey, I was watching this show and bad pictures came up, and so I decided that wasn't good for me, and so I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah.
So let's say the worst happens, Kristen.
Mhm.
Let's say, I think there's two parts I'd kind of like to ask you about with this, because what I want to get to is we find out that a child has been exposed to pornography, and this is kind of multifaceted because I'm wondering, first of all, are there signs that we can look for that potentially our child has been exposed and it has affected them? So maybe they're little and they've been exposed and it's upset them, it's bothering them, but they haven't communicated it to us. What can we look for? And then in our teens that are potentially they have been exposed and now it's become an addiction, what can we look for? And then I'll kind of maybe prompt you because this is a long question of then what do we do?
Thank you.
Yeah. So help us to know, what do we look for in young kids, in teens? What are the symptoms that maybe something has happened?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a story. So there was an 8-year-old girl. Her mom, when she turned 8, they had the talk, where babies come from, and that it's called sex. And so at the same time, they gave her an internet connected device. And I think at the time it was like an iPod or an iPod, one of those, right? And but she could go in there and search. So they had no idea that, I don't even know if they knew that she could go search the internet. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't understand the technology that they were putting in her hands at age 8. Um, but she just went in and started searching for sex and
Sure.
found porn.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so what happened? She was this bright, happy, social butterfly girl. And she started to just become sadder, more, she just wanted to be in her room. She didn't want to be out with the family. And so they just noticed this happening over a period of months. And what was happening is she would come home she wasn't allowed to take the device to school, but when she would come home, she'd go in her bedroom and she would watch like horrific, horrific videos. And finally, she was caught, and they were able to see what she'd been seeing, at least for a little while. And then she kind of fessed up, about what she'd been doing, but it had affected her personality.
Yeah.
There is a lot of research. So if your child just suddenly starts changing, now we all know that as kids go through puberty, there are some things, right? But this intense desire to, sometimes moodiness, like real moodiness, anger, like especially if you take away their device.
Yeah.
They want to be alone. They want to be in, and this is something that is like typical of all addictions. They starts out with other people, and you end up alone in your room, with your device or with your alcohol or with your drugs or whatever. And so it's very isolating.
Yeah.
So I would say that is lying is things. Kids that, again, want to stay in a room. Like sometimes kids will take their device in a bathroom. They'll run the water like they're taking a shower. And they're like, he's taking a long shower. Maybe not be taking a shower the whole time. Okay. So just changes in behavior. But again, if you start this conversation early and it's out in the open, then you're bringing something very dark and shining the light on it.
That's right.
And you can have open conversations about it. I think that is going to be the most helpful.
Yeah.
But yes, there are signs, because it does affect a child's behavior. It affects their personality. It affects their mental health. And there's a ton of studies now. I've given presentations on this, how pornography is linked to mental illness and increases in depression, increases in suicide. So we definitely need to be aware of that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your examples.
Mhm.
this it's all very hard to hear, and I think for moms, it's so upsetting and it's honestly terrifying. And I think that's one of the reasons we can kind of put our heads in the sand.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
do know that the enemy of our souls is using this tactic
Right.
to try and get our children and put them in bondage. And so we have to have this conversation, and we have to, we are not unaware of his schemes. And so we have to be honest about this stuff. So
Yeah.
let's talk about, let's
Can
say,
I just, I'm
yes,
sorry, can I just say, I should have ended the story with a little happier ending. And that is they talked to her, they took her to counseling, and she was able to get help. And so, she came
yes,
back to herself.
Yes.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that I don't know exactly what happened as she went into teenagers, but they intervened, and
Right.
thank
yes,
goodness that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So she
yes,
just didn't know had no idea that this could even happen. I think we have this idea that somehow all that stuff is behind an iron gate
Right.
on the internet. It is not. It is on social media. It is everywhere. There's so much access to it. So anyway, go ahead with your question.
Well, to add on to that, I think one of the things, we've put out technology contracts and screen guidelines and stuff for our moms. And one of the things we challenge them with is think about all the devices in your home. And let's say you have that kid, that just gets curious.
Right.
And if they went on your smart TV and searched sex, what would they find? If
Yeah.
they went on the iPad that is 5 years old, you think it barely works, it's not connected to a cell plan. But if you got on there and searched
Wi-Fi.
sex, what would they find? And you've got an old Kindle that's in a drawer that, you haven't touched in 10 years. If they found it and they opened it, could they? So, I just think
Yeah.
we have to really think through all those things. And I do want us to see it as, yes, there may be this horrific moment for you as a mom where you find out that this has happened to your child. And, you may feel like you want to vomit and your knees buckle and you feel guilt because you're like, how did I let this happen? Let's say, there's this moment. My hope would be that moms would remember too that that's the kindness of God that their child got caught.
Right.
And that God, allowed that moment for you to catch your child. And just as a mom who has some understanding in this area, I just want to say too that there is nothing like the Holy Spirit for a mom as an advocate in this area. Because if you will ask the Holy Spirit to help you and let you catch your kids, He is faithful to do it. And He will say, go in their room right now or go in that bathroom. And you may find something you never wanted to find, but God is using you to be an advocate to help bring your child to freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So here's then the question. That was my little soapbox. Here's my question for you, Kristen. Let's say this it's happened. You walk in on them or you find something on a device, like you share a device or something, you open it up and you're like, how did this get here? What do we do? What do we not do as we help that child?
Great question. All right, I'll tell you another story. Got a call from a friend. This is after I'd started doing this work, and she was just sobbing, and I couldn't even tell what she was saying. And so I said, "Do you want me to come over, Trisha?" And she said, "Yes." So I went over to her house, knocked on her door, no answer. But it was open. So I walked in and I heard this. I followed the sobbing, right, to her master bath. And I just hugged her. And I thought, oh my gosh, like her husband's been killed or asked for a divorce or something like. And she told me that she had found porn on the iPad that her 14-year-old son was using. And her first initial, like, what she was going to do is she was going to go to the junior high or where he was and his school, and she was going to pull him out and just like,
yes.
I said, don't do that. Don't do that. I said, you need to take 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever. you need to take time to deal with your own feelings,
Wow.
right? You're going to
That's good.
feel
Yeah,
guilt,
that's
shame,
good.
whatever. But I will tell you, this does not require immediate action.
Mm.
Okay? If they've been looking, they've been looking. I'm not saying you can't somehow confiscate the device and say, "Oh, we need to take a look at this or something," but don't engage. Don't wait till you deal with your own feelings. Talk to your husband, talk to your friend, talk to your mom, talk to somebody. Work on your own feelings, because when you go to confront your child, you need to be calm.
That's
So
good.
that we have this plan called the SMART plan. And I like these acronyms. So S is stay calm. Well, the first thing you have to do is get calm. It should have been a G, but S
Yes.
works better.
Yes. It didn't work with the lingo. Yeah.
Get calm and then stay calm. And then make a plan. So M is make a plan. So there are questions you need to ask your child,
Yeah.
right? But you don't want it to be the Spanish Inquisition, right? You don't want it to be this interrogation that lasts an hour or two, right? No. Drip, 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 drip with the questions. So they give you a little information, and you get more and more as they trust you, not to freak out. And also not to you have to be careful about the discipline. And we have some articles on Defend Young Minds about what do you do as far as, disciplining
Right.
your child.
Consequences? Are you talking about consequences?
Yes, right. So I know those are different words, discipline and consequences. I don't know. I like discipline just because I like the idea of where it came from and discipleship, but I also like self-discipline.
Yeah.
So in any case, however you want to say it, and then you start to train your children, and so we have a whole book called My Kids Saw Porn, Now What, and it's for instant download on our website defendyoungminds.com. But it just prepares you. So I would definitely say, get calm and stay calm, because the more emotion you bring to this when you confront your child about it, the less information you're going to get from them.
True. That's
Okay?
good. Yeah.
The less information and the more shame you're going to inject in it. And if you've never talked to your child ever about porn, then it's on you. I don't mean to be, mean here, but don't be mad at your child. Do not be mad at your child. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I'm going to now step up and do, and maybe you didn't know to do this before.
Yeah.
But now you're going to step up and do it, right? Because you cannot get angry at your child for doing something that is so common, really.
Yeah.
So common, and what everyone else is doing. And if they've never been told, then, and they're just going to follow the crowd, many of them, and if they don't know it's a danger, they don't know it's poison.
Yeah.
How are we going to get upset with them about it? So when I talk with teens and teen parents, the parents of teens, I'm like, first thing you need to do is apologize for your child that you've never talked to them about this. And I'm not saying you're a bad person or a bad mother. I'm just saying, start with an apology. It actually smooths the way and gets everybody their defenses down. Wow. When kids hear an apology from their parents, it's actually it can help.
Right. I think that's actually one of the things that I see different in mothering today is moms are apologizing more. We see the value in, because I think when I was growing up, mom was always right and you never messed with that. And then I got to be a mom and I was like, I screw up all the time.
So it's almost a way for me to heal too, to go to my child and
Yeah,
say, I'm sorry. And I think what you're saying is
yeah,
this is building a relationship that goes far beyond the teen years. Because even
yeah,
into adulthood, you want them to feel comfortable and safe coming back to you to talk about things. And so the more that I can build that relationship now, especially in those hard moments, the better off we're going to be in the long run.
absolutely. And I apologized to my kids when they were young, but I also apologized as they were adults. Like, I'm sorry, like I did not, we all are just doing our best. But
Right.
yes,
Yeah. Right. So, you've talked about that we want to, from a young age, read the book so that we're starting the conversation,
Yep.
which kind of helps us come up with a plan of if they are exposed. Um, is there anything else, Kristen, as you think about the way that we structure our homes, settings that we can put in place on devices or like systems or boundaries that you have seen be more successful in safeguarding homes?
yeah. Okay, well, a couple things come to mind. First, when you give a child a device, don't give them the device. Give them access to the device. This is not your iPad.
Right.
This is not your tablet. This is not your anything. All right? You're paying for it, and you're paying the streaming fees or whatever else, right? The internet.
They're not cheap.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So I would not give them a device. I would give them access to a family device. And even if they want to, like, I'm going to save my own money and I'm going to buy it, I'm like, no, you're not. I personally would say, nope, 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 nope. We're not going to do that. And I think it's important that moms feel like they can say no.
yeah.
Um, the other thing that comes to mind is truly delaying the whole smartphone. Delay. Like, do you like there are some groups on Facebook that I go to and look at, and pretty much every day, probably multiple times a day, there's somebody that posts and said, I didn't think it would happen to my kid.
Yeah.
And my kid's 12 and has a phone and is on TikTok, and they're getting groomed, and they're, sextortion and all this stuff. And I'm like, first of all, why does your 12-year-old have a phone? I'm sorry, but that's not a smart thing to do. Um, give them a if you're going to give a phone, give a safe phone.
Yeah.
Look at some of these safer options. And we have articles about, the Bark phone, the Gab phone, the Pinwheel, the phones that you can just get more control over. Now they're gonna want the iPhone, but
Of course.
I would say no.
And
No,
again, you said moms can say no. So you can say no.
moms can say no and should say no.
Yeah.
I see this kind of pendulum in parenting, from like no to everything. And I'm the ultimate, why? Because I said no. To letting kids kind of run the show. And I think there's this happy medium, but you are the prefrontal cortex for your kids. They don't have a developed prefrontal cortex. The parent has to be the prefrontal cortex and know that something isn't safe. Know that, so say no. So I'm getting more and more like loud and proud about, like, really consider,
Yeah.
when you give your kid a smartphone, it's a portal to porn, and don't be surprised when they find it and do it. The other thing is, as far as technology goes, you should have layered. So, for example, you should have a router that you can definitely, filter. So there's the Griffin router, and there's a bunch of other routers out there.
Yep.
Right? So, and also make sure on your router that you can see what what devices are using Wi-Fi. Because like you mentioned, what if you've got some old iPad that's around that your kids find, it doesn't have a data plan, but it's got Wi-Fi. It can hook into the Wi-Fi, and they're sneaking that. So router, and then for the device, make sure that you've got the parental controls.
Right.
And for example, we highly recommend for a device for websites, Canopy.
Okay.
But if there's an app, so Canopy will use AI to just blur and block any kinds of images, and you can kind of set the, how
That's
much
great.
the filtering you want. But the thing that's nice about that is, like, if you have some systems will blacklist all like websites that have certain words. Well, if the word is breast and you want a sale on chicken breasts, I mean,
Is it
may not
blurring
be able
the
to
picture
see
of the
it.
chicken breast in the Kroger ad?
No. I'm talking about it. It will block the whole website versus Canopy, which will just block the image, right?
Okay.
And they're not going to worry about the chicken breasts. They're going to worry about the real ones, like the human ones. So, so having that, and then, which is really smart, the AI is going to do a better job than just the older, clunkier form of, we're trying to keep up with blocking websites,
Right. Yeah.
I could set up 100 websites today.
Yeah.
And have pictures on them. So nobody can keep up with that game anymore. So that would be it. And then, like I said, the parental controls are important for the devices. But once you have an app on a device, know that there's so many backdoors
Right.
to apps that
Yeah.
they can get out. You may have seen this video. It was going around. It was this kid, and it was this like art app. And he went in, and it was like 17 different steps, and he got out onto YouTube.
Wow. No, it's amazing. And that's one of the reasons why, you don't, one of the settings that you set up is all apps have to be approved,
Right.
by the parent.
Right.
The other thing we say is whatever your passcode is,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
you have to make sure those kids don't know it.
Man, they know it.
Mhm.
And
they know it.
whether
Yes.
that means you're updating it periodically, or, whatever that looks like, that you're making sure that they don't know that passcode.
Right.
But I love what you said, because there's 3 layers we can put in. We can do the router level. We can have some kind of an app or software that we're adding to our devices. And then we can do the parental settings on the device.
Right.
Yeah.
So Kristen, tell us, as we wrap up, we want to be able to connect our moms to all of your resources. What's the best way that they can connect with you and the work that you're providing, all the resources you're providing?
Yeah, well, we would love to have you come to our website, Defend Young Minds, and download our free guide, How to Talk to Kids About Pornography. As a first step, we have several other guides there as well. And then, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Pinterest. We're out there, and we're always trying to put out really good information. Again, get the facts, keep yourself informed. And we have quite a large email list, and it's just parents that want, and we drip just once a week. We send out an email with, a new article or something that we think you should know about, or some really new product that we feel like parents might want to consider. So please, I invite you to find us at defendyourminds.com and on our social media platforms.
That's amazing.
Well, and I just want to say thank you for a mom that's used your material and just given me language, like a word that I can use with my kids. And I know there's other moms listening too. Thank you for being faithful for those 3 years to put together this resource and continuing to help us as moms. We really appreciate your work.
Thank you. Well, I just want to encourage moms. It's a hard job, and technology has not made it any easier. It's made it much more difficult. So I commend all of you who are having children and raising them. I think you're doing better than you think you are.
Amen.
And I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I just want to make it easier for you to empower your children to reject pornography and all forms of sexual exploitation and keep them safe as they grow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, moms, for being with us today. You'll be able to find all the links to the things that we talked about in the show notes, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, moms.